Hey, Dave here from Powerhoof with another Drifter Dev Diary. This time I'm going to talk about puzzle dependency charts, which are a kind of useful design tool. But first I'll tell you what I've been doing on the Drifter. So this week I've been working on this kind of lighting for this crypt scene. This kind of cool lighting effect. Me and Barney have been sort of in the office together for the first time in ages, and so it's been fun like working with him. He's really good at these effects and stuff, and like bouncing ideas off around about how to do stuff. So like the background art and stuff is kind of first pass, and then I've hacked it to bits to like test some sort of lighting effect stuff, and then the character animation is also just a placeholder that I whipped together to put a little flame on this. I mean, he's carrying like a jar in this walk animation. I just like hacked a little flame there. But yeah, the thing I was going to show is more the effect stuff. So there's a few things going on here. I've got just a placeholder character here to sort of show the lighting there as well. But I'm pretty happy with how it's coming along. It's been fun working on this stuff. I can tell you how kind of there's a few layers to the way these effects work for the lighting. There's the character kind of has a rim light, which is basically taking the edge of the character. So you've got this sort of basically finds where there's a transparent pixel behind the sprite of the character, and then just like counts back a couple in the direction that the sort of I pass into the shader we made, and then I animate that with a bit of blobby movement as well, so I can adjust how much it blurbles around, and then the rest of it is tinted a color, and then there's a bit of a Photoshop dodge effect kind of thing as well, and I kind of darken the back of the character. So there's that element which happens to these characters to give a kind of rim light, and then I can sort of also scale that in and out as you walk kind of past things, and then for the background, like this light on the background that you see, like lighting things up, it's actually, there's a fully bright, close that, there's a fully bright version of, here we go, this one. So there's this fully bright version of the background art, where it's all completely lit, and then what's happening is, which one is it? This one. We've got this other sort of mask image, and wherever there's the white, it just like lets through the full light, and the grey lets through it half. So that gives this sort of big circle here, and this sort of slightly lighter circle here. And then I'm doing pretty much the same thing again for these little specular highlights. So like as you walk near, kind of get close to something, you see little bits of it glinting out. And again, this is just like art I quickly mocked up. So like this door, you can kind of start, there's like a door here, you can sort of start to see it glinting out from the darkness. And that's just a very similar thing. It's a bit of a bigger circle. And it's just like I've taken the light image and just like deleted most of it except for a few little bits that it should highlight. And then the whole thing has a kind of a bit of noise like pass through it, that makes it have this blobby effect. So it sort of animates where each pixel is, based on a kind of noise. It's like a blurbly kind of looking, it looks like bumpy terrain, and like where the bumpy terrain goes lighter, it moves it to the left, and where it goes darker, it moves to the right, that kind of thing. And so that makes it, depending on the size of the terrain, look kind of more blobby. So I've done that to all the different ones, and same with this outer shadow here. And so the outer shadow is really just a big black circle that's over the top of the whole screen, with the same kind of effect. It like goes, so that one goes over the things, like goes over the characters as well. It's kind of fun. Yeah, I've been really enjoying doing that the last couple of days. And that one, the dark ones, this is something that Barney sort of just got me to try just as we were going home yesterday. It doesn't follow the character directly like this one around the character does. It kind of slowly like follows, but it's kind of halfway between the center of the room and the character. So then as you move, it almost like moves with a bit of parallax. Yeah. And there's lots of edge cases. So like this, I haven't fixed a lot of stuff. Like I haven't put the effect on these sort of roots that are coming out of the wall, or this, we've got to massage all this stuff so it's not all glitchy. but mostly just sort of working on the, like how this sort of shader could work. So it's been fun. The last thing I guess is that there's most of the shader stuff we do, we only update it every like 0.1 or 0.15 seconds, and that gives it a bit more of a hand animated feel. So all these things are kind of blobbing, but if I turn that delay off, or whatever, it would be super smooth, and that suits some games. But I think when you've got characters that are hand animated, it's nice to have everything kind of have a bit of that framiness. It makes everything feel like it's really kind of solid and chunky. Cool. Well, yeah. So that's I'll keep working on that this week. Barney's been doing some really sweet animations, but I can't show you them because they're spoilery. But I think they're things that I'll save for like when we do a big reveal trailer or something, because they're pretty cool. So that's that for what I've been doing on the Drifter. Where's my dev diary thing? Here we go. So this time, talking about puzzle dependency charts, which it's a topic that most people who've worked on adventure games know now. Made famous by... where are we? This one. Made famous by... Stop that one. Ron Gilbert, famous for Monkey Island. And his, if you go to his website, grumpygamer.com, there's a great article on puzzle dependency charts where he talks about what they used to do at LucasArts, making Monkey Island and stuff, and how they work. The upshot basically is when you're making puzzles, you want to kind of have them flow sort of to an outcome, which might be, in this case, say, opening the basement door. So you might start with that, open the basement door being the thing you've got your goal for the character to do. And so then you can think, okay, what are the sort of things that might be stopping you? You need to oil the hinges. For that, you need oil, or you need to unlock it with a key. For that, you need the key. So doing things that way, you can work backwards, and but also, I guess, think about a scene and think about the sort of obstacles that might work in a scene. So if you've got a scene and you've got a chainsaw, you might think of some obstacles that chainsaw might be able to overcome, which is so you can kind of attack it from different directions. And so, I mean, this stuff's well trodden from people who sort of make adventure games and stuff like that. But I thought I'd just show how I do it for how I've done it. Ron talks about the programs he uses to do it, because you can do it on paper, but it's nice to be able to do it in a program where you can doing it on the computer is just like, obviously, like there's a lot of things that we like to do on computers because that's what our favorite things are. I use a program called YED. There's a lot of ones out there, and I tried a bunch. But one of the features that Ron talked about being a big important one, and that I found was I kind of agree with being important, is the fact is something to let you mess around quickly, like make a little flow chart quickly. So I'll give an example. No, 3 or 4, whatever. Mess around quickly and so make something really quick like that, and then hit a button and have it calculate a layout for you, and have it sort of neaten it all up. And so that way, you're not spending any time worrying about how pretty it is. And so if I change my mind and it's like, oh no, this should lead directly to that, I don't then have to go, oh, okay, I've got to move this thing, and then so that's got to go over here, and I've got to neaten this up. And I just hit this button, and it's like back to like looking good. And that's really one of the powerful things I find with doing these puzzle dependency charts, is as a design tool, it like just is a good way of you can kind of just shuffle these things around really easily, and that is really helpful for actually just coming up with ideas for how not just puzzles but the like plotting and stuff works as well. Because if I'm like, okay, learn about treachery. I should have thought of a word I can spell. Okay. Yeah, well, baddies. I always do that in streams. I always type a word and I'm like, oh god, why did I pick a word I can't spell? If I'm like, okay, I want the player to learn about baddies, then I can try and work out, okay, this node's got to go in here somewhere. Maybe it could be like you've got to do it. You learn about the baddies, and that lets you do this one, and so that way it's part of the flow of the game. And then so you can put in non-puzzle stuff as well. This program's called YED. There it is, an online kind of version of it. I'm just an old fart, and I hate using applications or programs in a browser as opposed to just having them as an executable on my desktop that launches instantly and feels like it's not going to get removed if I accidentally press back on the browser. But also just, anyway, kind of irrelevant. There is a version online, but I find this one's a bit easier. One thing I note, if you do start using it, is like, I think by default the nodes look like this, which I found really ugly. So I just like, you can make it your own node. You can just style it like however you want pretty easily. Just with over here, you can just change the color and stuff. And then you've just got in your list of current elements the ones you want to use, and you just double click the ones you want to be the sort of primary ones that are being used. So I'll show you a couple of my dependency charts as well. So this is from a game. Here we go. Just put this in the background. This is from a game called The Inanimate Mr. Coat Rack, because I didn't want to spoil you with actually showing the Drifter one. So this way I can show one that's not you can't worry about too much. You can go and play it. Obviously, it's really good. Definitely play it if you haven't checked it out. This shouldn't spoil things too much anyway. The idea is you're like this mad scientist, and you raise this. Raise a kind of monstery dude, and then you've just got to do a bunch of little puzzles. It was done in 2 weeks for an Adventure Jam, and so it was a bigger one than we'd done before as well. There was a lot of kind of stuff that went into it, but it's a good one to show you because it kind of has a pretty standard puzzle flow, where I kind of tried to think about it's another thing that Ron Gilbert talks about, which is doing things in sets of 3. So giving the player 3 things to do at once. So as you can see, the first thing you've got to do here is erase a zombie. And so I've got getting the brain, getting a rat to put in the soul sucker, and connecting electricity, and then he wakes up. So that's, pretty simple little thing. Then maybe I added a bit where it's like, I need some exposition maybe about the character's past. So you find a newspaper and then he opens the door for you. And then again, kind of trying to do it in 3s. There's kind of these 3 elements that kind of go hand, I wanted to sort of happen 3 threads at once. So you've got to get in 3 sort of body parts. And then in the end, I wanted, again, to have the 3 kind of sections inside this sort of ending sequence. So there's 3 sort of threads. That's really all kind of all I can show you from this one. You can kind of get a nice idea of the way these things, or the way the game will feel as well. Like this one, you can see there's sort of the sections sort of separately. There's a couple of linear bits, like this is a sort of linear part, but then you can do them all together. And so this is for the Drifter, but this is the demo that you might have seen, or you might have watched the Let's Play. So this is really quite linear. There's at least like when you're on the train car at the start. This is in the trailer, so not spoiling anything. Or you can do you've got 2 options. You can get the tap first, or try the door first and wake the guy up. But then you've just got to, you've got one option at each time. But one thing that's and these sort of linear flow kind of, I call them flow sections, adventure games. I think they're kind of fun, and they kind of work nicely a lot of the time, where you feel like, oh, now I've got this, I can do this, and now I've got this, I can do this. So that's how this kind of works. You have to wake the guy up, which means the tarp's on the floor, which means you can use it on the guy, which means you can get the bar, which means you can open the door. But even though this is super linear, when you're playing the game, there's all the other things in the scene to look at, and because you don't know, there's only one thing that actually progresses the puzzles. It's kind of hidden that it's linear. You don't know how linear it is, and so you still feel like you're kind of in control, even if there's only one thing you can really actually do to progress the game. The reason the reason they did things in threes, especially in like older games, was because if the player doesn't figure out to, say, get the bar, then he's completely stuck, and there's nothing to go. Sorry, they are completely stuck, and there's nothing else for them to do. Like they're just stumped, and they have to stop the game, and that can be a bit of a problem. So when you're doing linear things like this, you have to really signpost things. So if they need to get the bar, you've got a linear section. Yeah, if they need to get the bar next, but yeah, you kind of want it. So if they're clicking and trying to do the wrong thing, like they're trying to click the door over and over and they can't open it, you give them a hint, or you just make, getting the bar off the floor is really obvious. So hopefully people don't get stuck on that. And so that's where these games can kind of seem a bit easier, like, because if you don't immediately get it, the game will hopefully prompt you and give you a bit more of an idea how to progress. But I think when that feels like it's in world and in the game, then that works really nicely. But yeah, so then after the train car, it opens up a little bit more. You can do a few things at once. You've got to get the car going. You got to get the keys and find some fuel, get the car, your charger. You talk to a reporter, and then it goes sort of a bit more linear for the final sequence. But yeah, you can sort of see the size of this. This was maybe half an hour of gameplay. I think this one was. This is going back to Coat Rack. This one was about 40 minutes maybe. So you can kind of get a bit of an idea of the size of your game. This is Telwinium Part 2. I won't zoom in too much. So the Telwinium's interesting. It's got a little bit I'm adding at the start. But then the whole game is this really big, just mess of stuff you can do in any order. There is it does condense down into basically getting a couple of key things. But that's a much broader style of game, that old sort of Sierra style. And then I like this is all of the Drifter, so you can see. I won't zoom in too far, but that's okay. Yeah. So this is chapter 1, and so this is chapter by chapter. So each chapter condenses down to sort of one point where you can show where the next one starts. At the moment, so I've kind of got all this sort of designed out up to chapter 9. There's 9 chapters all up, and chapter 9 is it's ended up being bigger than I sort of initially imagined, but it's a really cool chapter. I'm really happy with that. But yeah, so 9 chapters in all. They've all been sort of mocked up very roughly, and then I'm up to which chapter? This chapter, which is another big chapter, big more sprawling one. And so I've kind of play tested all the chapters before that. And so yeah, I try and have a balance between really linear stuff. So here there's like, I don't want to zoom in, do I? Here there's a bunch of really linear things, like you're very constrained, and then it opens up and you've got a nice really big open section. Because I wanted the Drifter to feel like you really kind of, it's a kind of a story and an adventure game that really rattles along and like is always pushing forward. And so I don't have too much really big open sections. The times I do, there's a couple of chapters. So this one here, and this one I'm about to work on more, where those ones you have a lot more you can do it at once, but the gameplay kind of changes to a bit more investigative kind of thing, where you're you're uncovering clues and working out what's going on with the story and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a different style of gameplay. It could give you a bit of break from the sort of linear thing where the player's being thrust out of the frying pan into the fire. But yeah, so it's a big game. So I mean, currently where that crypt I think is this scene here, so chapter 3. So we're adding that up. So there's a lot to go in terms of the art stuff. I think most chapters are trying to sort of reuse locations where it makes sense, but most chapters have, like, on average maybe 4 new locations. For like 50 to 60 in all, because there's the first one's introduce a lot of different locations that then you get to revisit a bit more later. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll keep going with the stream. So the stream you can catch at twitch.tv/doesondrums. I'm trying to do it every what day is it? Thursday morning, my time, which is in Australia, so that's probably Wednesday night for most of the world. Twitch.tv/doesondrums, and you can follow me on doesondrums on Twitter as well. I'll post when I'm going to stream if you want to catch it live. And I'm going to keep working on some more effects for this this crypt thing now, I think, on stream, if people want to hang out for that. But for the YouTube people, bye bye until next time.